Command Point is sponsored by Crossfire Games. Use code CommandPoint25 at checkout to get 5% off your next purchase. Link in the description.
No.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Command Point. My name's Ryan. Today I'm here with Shane.
Hello, hello.
And Shane, today we are going to be doing a tier list ranking every single kill team in Kill Team. A lot has changed since the last balanced data slate. So let's go ahead and just get right into this, Shane. What team do you want to start off with?
Oh, yeah, I mean, this is like, since the balance data slate, I keep waiting for the shoe to drop and for, like, the meta to, like, become obvious as far as, like, what the really, really problematic stuff is. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's what usually happens. And honestly, it hasn't really happened. Um, the game feels pretty balanced. Um, that being said, I do want to quickly highlight just a few things from the last tier list that I think I got wrong.
Okay.
Um, I believe, I mean, the bottom tier was like all over the place. I think that I had put Hierotek in A when they should have been an S, and I put Phobos in S when they probably should have been an A. And Blades of Khaine, duh, everybody was wrong about Blades of Khaine. I think we put them in the bottom tier, and they're actually like a very good
They're
team.
good. Yeah.
But everybody was wrong about that, so I don't feel too bad about that one. Um, but yeah, and I also want to say I think that I've seen some tier lists where they're like putting like nothing in S tier or like maybe like one or two teams in S tier, and then their like A tier is like 20 teams. And I think that's like not the way people should do tier lists.
Yeah, no, that's literally the S tier is there for a reason.
Yeah, it's supposed to be relative
Like
to the
just
meta.
like just
So
take
like
whatever is at the top in your A tier and just throw that in S tier.
yeah, because like we can't always like obviously, my view on it is the S tier right now is probably not going to be as strong as the S tier before the data slate. But there's
No.
still it's all relative.
Yeah.
Like we can't just eternally compare it to past metas or else, we would just end up with like a million teams in the middle. And the
Yeah.
point is it's like well, these are the teams we have. Their power level's relative. Just because we put something in S tier doesn't mean it's like Warp Coven pre-data slate, but
Yeah.
yeah. But anyway, let's pick a team. Let's start with um ooh, there's a lot of teams, Ryan.
There sure are a lot of teams in this game.
Let's start with oh man. Let's go with a classic. Let's
Okay.
start with Deathcore of Krieg,
Ooh, okay.
who just
Yeah.
got some buffs.
They did just get some buffs. We recently played them together in a game.
Yeah. I
Um,
think that they're like, yeah, I think I find them to be like a more honest version of what they used to be. Um, I think that they just like hit really hard, but they're still like there's some things about them that I think could be a little better. I would definitely say they're like a B tier.
mhm.
I've seen some people say they're still really bad, and I don't see it. I don't think they're like really good enough to win a tournament. Or I guess I don't know.
Or like a major,
Yeah, I
like
couldn't
a
see them winning a
larger
major.
tournament, yeah.
Yeah. But
Um,
I do think that like ceaseless shooting with
see,
accurate one
yeah, it's a hell
and
of a
saturate,
drug.
it's really good. I mean,
Yeah.
your cracks are just like awesome.
Mhm.
Um, you've got a Melta, you've got a plasma, you got two cracks, you've got a plasma pistol. Um, I think if you just like don't take really bad operatives, like the sapper, don't take the sapper.
Yeah.
Um, I think there's some combos here that are pretty good. Um, I like them. I think they're like a pretty balanced team.
Mhm.
I do think
Yeah.
that like the bruiser, whatever his name is, could be a little better. It's pretty silly that he's like still so bad.
Mhm.
Um, like I think it's fair now that they lost all their like jank that made them
Yeah.
broken. It would be reasonable, I think, to like at least let them have like a good melee guy. Like all the other hordes get like one good melee guy at least. So
Yeah.
at least it feels that
Something
way.
that's going to be like more in line with the same like power level, I guess, as like the blooded's like close combat like melee guy with like like the
Yeah.
butcher or whatever he's called.
Hmm.
Yeah. Something like that would be neat. So just make the bruiser or whoever is the guy with the mace in that team, because I still have him primed and unpainted because I've never ran him last edition. Give him some time in the sun.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead, Shane, and move on to another team. I'm gonna go ahead and choose the Angels of Death.
Ooh. I think this is a pretty spicy team,
Yeah,
honestly. Yeah, I mean,
they
I
were
think that
untouched in that last balance data slate, correct?
yes.
Yeah,
Um, I don't know. I've seen some people saying that they are S tier, and I do think that like the more I look at the team, the stronger they feel.
yeah,
Especially with a lot of their like Legionaries was a big problem matchup for them.
yep.
They got nerfed. Inquisition was a problem matchup. Inquisition got nerfed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think Angels of Death is really good, and I think we could see in the future Dueler chapter tactic getting nerfed.
Okay. Yeah, I can
I
see
think
that.
that's it skews too hard, and like some teams just can't deal with Angels of Death because of
Mm-hmm.
that. They're definitely at least A. It's tempting to put them in S.
Really? Okay.
Um, the sniper is really good, like really, really good.
Yeah.
And like I see so many people talking about angels where they're like, I have my angels build where I just play them like this. And I think this is the best way to play them. And then somebody else is like playing them totally different. And they're like, I think this is the way to play them.
Yeah.
And I think the
The
strength of the
the real
team isn't
secret is you can just
it.
do whatever you want game to
Yeah.
game.
It's not like a like you're looking for like a certain build to
Yeah.
like rule them all.
Yeah.
I think the power of this
You are
team,
locked in with your chapter tactics, so you can't like modify that from game to game, but like your roster loadout, like you can go all assault intercessors, you can go all guys with bolters, you can take the guy with the heavy bolter if there is a matchup that's actually reasonable for that to take instead of the eliminator, but yeah.
probably not. But
Yeah.
yeah, like I think it's just built it's like the flexibility of the team. Like you can run a list on one game that skews so hard to crush like a Fellgor Ravager team,
Mhm.
and then the next game run like a totally separate list that is better equipped for dealing with like an Inquisition.
Yeah.
So I don't know. They might be S tier.
We'll park him in S tier and see if anything pops up that can supplant that. The first thing that I have in my mind is potentially Nemesis Claw, just because they go really well into elites. Um, but
Do we want to do Nemesis Claw right now?
yeah, we'll do Nemesis Claw right now then.
Knock off a couple elites.
Yep. So
So
enough.
Nemesis,
Hmm.
yeah, I think there's an argument to be made that Nemesis Claw might have a good matchup into Angels of Death, but I think that they are like they feel too honest to me. Not honest.
They're
They just
definitely
feel
not
too like
honest.
yeah, they feel like not reliable enough.
Uh
Like
huh.
a lot of their stuff comes down to like rolling crits. And like rolling well, and you don't have a ton of like reliable good rerolls. And outside of the Screecher, you don't have like lethal 5 or like ways to upgrade dice super well
Hmm.
outside of like the thing where you're rerolling against wounded operatives.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that they are really good, and I think they have a high skill ceiling. Um, but I think that you know against the field, I think I would rather play Angels personally.
Okay. Interesting.
They're just like I don't know, like they can't ignore injury. They they have no
Yeah.
heals. Um,
Yep.
and I don't know. They're just like you can just like not roll a crit on the leader, and you're kind of boned.
True. Yeah.
But make no mistake, they're very good.
Yeah.
Like, you could definitely win a major with Nemesis Claw if you're good enough.
Well, all right, Shane. Go ahead and pick a team. Pick any team.
Yeah. Let's do. Oh man. All right. Um, I'm gonna say Navy Breachers
Okay.
because they just got buffed, and
Yep.
I've played against them actually since the buffs. So they were like maybe the worst team. They're one of the worst teams before. I
Mm-hmm.
think that they're definitely not the worst team anymore. That's for sure. If they ever were.
Yeah.
Um, I do think they're still missing some stuff, and I would probably lean towards putting them in C tier. Like
Mm-hmm.
they have this problem where they're like a really defensive team. Um, and I mean, like if you're playing on Into the Dark every game, they might be B tier, but on Volcus they might be D tier.
Oh.
Um, because they have like so much in their kit that is just dedicated to ITD. Like they have equipment that only works on ITD. They have a firefight ploy that only works on ITD. I think in general their kit is really good for ITD too. Um, yeah, I like they have abilities that only work on ITD on certain operatives. And they're like very defensive.
Mm.
And so if you can like successfully play that kind of game, that's really good. And you can probably win some games with them. But I think against some teams and good players, you're gonna reach a point where you have to like put your foot in the gas. And that's where I think breachers struggle a little bit more.
Okay.
So I would put them as like a C tier right now.
Cool. Um, I'm gonna go ahead and choose Hand of the Archon.
Ooh. Yeah, they're good.
So, yeah, they're good. After Hierotek, after like the Hierotek nerfs, they are an elf team, so I think they might bump up a tier from where we had them last. I think we last had them in B.
I think we had them in A tier.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't think they're
I
S
mean,
tier. Um,
I've seen people saying they're S tier. I don't agree. I think they're very good.
mhm.
Um, and I think part of it is that like they're kind of the easiest elf team to play in my well, Void Dancers exist, so maybe not the easiest, but
Mm, mm. Are they
other
like the
than
most, I guess like not easiest, but are they like the most focused, like straightforward elf team to play? Or is that kind of the same
yeah,
thing now that I think about it?
they're not very tricksy.
Uh-huh.
I guess is like the root of it. Like a lot of
Yeah.
elf teams are tricksy,
Mhm.
and Handy Archon is just like a hammer. Um, my problem with them, and I think they're being rated very highly by a lot of people right now in the community. My problem with Hand of the Archon is that they do hit really hard, but I mean they don't hit that much harder than the other elf teams,
Yeah.
and they have way less defensive tech than all the other elf teams. Um, like you have like pain tokens for rerolling defense dice, but that's about it. And they do die like super easily.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know. Like I'm assuming you probably need to like leverage the pass firefight ploy to like get to be like basically 10 activations.
Mhm.
But like honestly, it's I don't know. They run low on CP, which makes that hard to do because like their cunning ability, it just kind of doesn't like if you pass with Hand of the Archon, then your opponent usually should pass back because then you don't have a chance to
The
hand out your
farm.
pain
Yeah.
tokens, which is just horrible.
The worst.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I think they're probably like a low A tier. I would
Okay.
not put them near S, and I don't think they're the best elf team.
Mhm. All right. Um, so I think it's your turn to pick a team, Shane.
Yes. Let's do. Ooh. Oh, there's so many teams.
I know.
Let's do Kasrkin, Ryan. We
Okay.
love crapping on Kasrkin.
It's historically, yeah. I wouldn't say I love it because like when the Kasrkin came back, I was so hype because they were like a they were a set of models that have been out of print for like 20 years. So I was hyped to see them come back. And when they did come back, they were insane in 40k before they got nerfed. Um, and then in Kill Team, they were just like mid forever. So
Yeah,
where do we think they are now, Shane?
I think they stink.
Oh, jeez. Well, if they stink, that smells like D tier. Why do they stink, Shane?
They're just very like one-dimensional,
Yeah.
and they are honest. They are about as honest of a team as you can get.
Mm-hmm.
There's no tricks. Their melee sucks.
Mm-hmm.
They literally just walk and shoot,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe they move, dash, and shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't see any potential for this team to win a tournament,
Wow.
a big
Okay.
tournament.
All right.
Um, yeah, and I don't even like. I don't know. I guess they're okay against elites, but even then, like, I don't know. I wouldn't want to play against any elite team with Kasrkin still.
Yeah.
I just don't. I don't know what you're supposed to do with this team to like make them win, and it's not like there's like some deep toolbox that you can dig into. It's just pretty like generic, and they have a lot of restrictions. And it just feels like you read the rules and you just find more and more things where it's like, man, this is really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I think they're like an easy D tier for me. I think they're one of the worst teams.
Okay. I'm gonna choose Pathfinders because
Okay.
that is a team that we actually do actively enjoy dumping on.
Yeah, and we can dump on them right now too. They're
Let's
pretty bad.
go. Better or worse than Kasrkin?
Probably better,
Yeah.
but still D tier. Like they were, I'm actually surprised Pathfinders didn't get any changes because
Yeah.
they were really bad. And
At straight out of the gate, and
yeah,
they are a pretty popular faction. Just like overall, Tau is a very popular faction. Um, so yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're still in the tank on how to make this team good, or it might just be one of those, wait until like the cycle happens and they become declassified, and then just forget about it.
yeah. And I mean, teams like Pathfinders that are getting declassified are or classified, I don't know. They're like they've only got like 6 more months, which means
Yeah,
they've only got like one more data slate to make this team good.
yeah.
So I feel for the Pathfinder players, I guess. Um, selfishly, I'm kind of happy because they were a nightmare to play against when they were
Mm-hmm.
functioning. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's just their marker light abilities aren't quite doing enough. A lot of their ploys got way worse. It's just like hitting on fours with balanced.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a nothing burger.
yeah, and they have obviously no melee to speak of.
Yep.
So, I mean, I think they've got more bodies than Kasrkin. They've got more tricks, but
Mm-hmm.
pretty bad. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Shane, I'm actually going to jump the gun here. Do you want to talk about the best kill team in the Tau Empire right now?
Oh, yes, I do. It's not Vespids.
Certainly not. We'll get to them in a second.
Yeah, Farstalker Kinband, dude. I think that the age of the Kroot is here upon us.
Let's go, dude.
I've been playing them extensively, and I keep waiting for like the for it to stop feeling good.
Uh-huh.
And I'm starting to like accept. I think they're just kind of cracked.
Okay.
I think they're like a hard team to play,
Uh-huh.
but the more I play them, I think they're like a low A tier,
Low A tier. Okay.
which is miles and miles above where they've ever been. Um, they're just like the perfect. I think the changes that they got in the new edition help them into the mid-range teams,
Mm-hmm.
like the elves that they really struggled against.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like for instance, you um, like you have a lot of guns that are, and not just guns, but weapons that are 3/4.
Yeah.
Um, which means that your normal breakpoint with a crit and a hit, it's 7 damage, which is leaving elves on 1. But there's a big prevalence now of like easy access to stun on your shooting attacks. So you can shoot an elf and maybe you'll leave it on 1 or 2 health, but you're probably going to leave it on 1 AP as well, which is really bad for them.
Yeah.
Um, you have a fight first ability, which is really good too, especially if you've done any damage to them at all. Um, you can really like make that so that they don't want to charge you, or at least they second guess
Mm-hmm.
charging you, because a lot of the time it's like with the fight first with Kroot, it's like, well, I only have 4 attacks and threes, 3/4, an 8 wound model. I'm probably not going to kill them. But if you think about it this way, when they charge and fight you, if you pay to fight first, as long as you roll like average, their odds of killing you, if you're just willing to parry out, is like so low. And then they've just wasted one of their activations, and you could just fall back with that guy and have somebody else kill that elf.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then also there's the upside that maybe you do roll well and you just actually do kill them in the fight.
That feels real good.
Yeah, and like they have 12 activations, 12 bodies, 8 wounds apiece, other than the dogs and a couple of the other guys that are 9 wounds. So it's like there there's a lot to chew through. And I think that they can really bully elites just by out activating them, as long as you don't give up double kills. You just have a lot of ways to do damage, and like they score tac ops very well. And the best part of Kroot is against other hordes, they aren't out activated, and you can go toe to toe with them. And against other hordes, your low damage doesn't matter. So because it's always enough to kill a 7 wound model.
Right.
So like they can go toe to toe with other hordes. I think they can bully elites just through sheer activations and like the amount of ways to like throw damage out. And I think the mid range teams are like a lot more doable now than before. So yeah, I don't know. They just have an awesome toolkit. They're not easy to play, but I think they're A tier.
Okay.
That might be one of the best hordes, honestly.
Do you put them above or below Hand of the Archon?
I'd put them below.
Okay. Cool. So, Shane, I'm gonna go ahead and pick a team. I'm gonna pick the Fellgor Ravagers. Um,
Ooh,
yeah, I know. I know. It's gotta be, I don't know. It's gotta be S tier, right?
easiest S tier of all time. This is like everybody knew this was going to happen, that they were going to be S tier as soon as the other teams got nerfed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's pretty much come to fruition. They are, by all accounts, like better than they were last edition. Just a lot of other things got more better. So, and it was
Yeah.
specifically elites, which they struggle against. I do think they are bad into angels, but I think in general, Fellgor, I think, are better than angels.
Better into the field. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Like angels can just go like dueler and just you can't ever kill anything with Fellgor.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, Fellgor, I mean, it's crazy. Like all the things that were good about them for the most part are still around. Their some of their ploys got better, like ambush and pelting firepower. Um, the Mangler, their best operative, got better. I don't know how that happened, but it did. Um, yeah, I mean, they're just like really good. Frenzy's a really powerful mechanic. If we're talking about an elf meta, Fellgor Maul elves, I think a lot of elites are going to be scared off, and those are the things that Fellgor are the worst against. Um, yeah, I mean they're just S tier. They're really really good. I mean I played them at a Canadian tournament last month,
Mm-hmm.
and I played against a very good Phobos player who took 4 stun grenades with his utility equipment, and threw 4 stun grenades on turn one. One of them blasted to hit 2 guys, and I think out of 5 stun rolls, he made 4 of them. And then he also killed 2 guys on turn one. So I lost 2 models and 4 got stunned. And it just didn't matter
Oh.
because Felgor are just so good.
Damn,
That just
that's
didn't mean
crazy.
anything. Yeah,
That's
like
insane.
I've seen people say like, "Oh, you just take stuns against Felgors." It's like, no, that's not going to do it. First of all, the risk of failing the stun is huge because you're putting yourself
Yeah.
in charge range, and if you fail the 3-up, you're in trouble. And second of all, most teams only get 2. I mean, that was Phobos who get 4 if they want. Most teams only get 2 stuns. That's not going to weather the storm against Felgor. So yeah, you need a lot more than that.
All right. Cool. So, go ahead and pick one, Shane.
Yeah. Let's go with Mandrakes.
Okay.
I think they're like, this is like the closest to an elf meta we've ever had.
Very
And to
true.
be
Yeah.
honest, yeah, to be honest, I don't know which of the elf teams are the worst because they're all good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it might be Mandrakes though, but again, they're good. I think they're probably B tier, like above Deathcore for sure. They are a bit gimmicky in the sense that they're going to do the same thing every game to get
Right.
6 on tac ops. Um, and they still don't have great ways to kill elites.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. Like they're good. The threat ranges they can project are pretty crazy, but it does revolve around getting your chosen going.
Mm-hmm.
Or not your chosen, your chooser of the flesh. Um, and I do think they're much worse on the GW ITD maps just
Okay.
because it's like big open rooms.
Yeah.
Um, so it's hard to get your teleports off or get
Right.
in shadow without being like out of cover. So I would say B tier is fair. They
All right.
still do have the crazy, they're kind of glass cannony. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think that B is good.
Okay. Um, I'm gonna go ahead and choose. Uh, let's go with Hierotek because I think I know where you would rank these guys. Um, they've lost kind of everything that made the team good. Is that correct? There's not really a lot of
Eh,
internal balance anymore with the team.
yeah, they've lost almost all their good stuff. The internal balance is just in shambles again. We're back to Chronomancer.
Yeah.
Psycho is just dead forever. I don't see them buffing that model back to where it was
Yeah.
or to like a place where it's relevant
Yeah.
again. Um, I think that like Chronomancer abusing Time Splinter might have some play, but it's still like that's it.
Yeah. That's like the
And like
only trick that you have.
yeah, reanimating on one wound is such a joke.
Yeah. It's
Um,
like, what's the point?
they're C or D,
Okay.
probably C.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have to be C. I don't think they're bad enough to be D. Um,
Mhm.
all right, your pick, Shane.
Yes. Uh, let's do. Huh. Let's do Brood Brothers.
Brood Brothers. Okay.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are sort of underrating horde teams right now. Like personally, I think one of the reasons why elves never had a great meta last edition is because shooty hordes were so good.
Yeah.
And a lot of the shooty hordes are still pretty decent, and I think it's gonna like the elf meta might not be as real as we think because I think shooty hordes now that elites are nerfed have a little more legs to stand on when it comes to like just showing up to a tournament and not worrying about their matchups. Um, and I think it's very possible that like if good players go back to shooty hordes, then the elf meta might never actually take off.
Okay.
And I think Brood Brothers are among the best hordes right now. Um, I think B tier's right for them, but like they're a high B tier, and like I wouldn't be opposed to looking at A tier in the future, depending on how A tier and B tier look. But they just have a lot of flexibility. They've
Yep.
got the different leaders. Magus is really good. Toolbox is really deep. They get a lot of rerolls. They're probably not easy to play, but I think a good
Yeah.
player can do a lot with them.
Yeah. All right, cool. Let's talk about Blades of Khaine. We've been talking about a lot about the elf teams recently, so let's try and round off this kind of like hyper faction here. Um, so Blades of Khaine, lots of flexibility, right?
Yeah, we had them at the like one of the worst teams before.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then Blades of Khaine players started like showing off with them and doing well, and like Chris Pocky went like 8-1 with them at LVO, almost
Mm-hmm.
won LVO. One of our locals was killing it with Blades of Khaine. So I mean, we were just so wrong about Blades of Khaine, the whole community, but
Yeah.
us included.
Yeah.
Um, I think they're really good. They actually got buffed in the data slate.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they're A tier. And I think that mm, I wouldn't put them above Nemesis Claw, but I think they're better than Hand
Better
of the
than
Archon.
HOA. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Like well, I kind of complain about Hand of the Archon having no defensive tech. Like when you
Mm-hmm.
look at the defensive tech that Blades of Khaine has, it's like they have a lot. They have a just scratch once per game. They have contempt. Like they have a parry first. They can like if they charge you and roll bad, but they get a crit, they can like a banshee can like crit and then fall back. Um, they just have like a lot going on,
Mm-hmm.
and they're probably the hardest team to play in the game, maybe. But I mean that's a really deep toolbox. I mean this is basically a team with like 30 firefight plays,
Yeah. Yeah, that's
or it
the
feels like maybe like 20 firefight plays.
that's the
But
one problem with this team. But if you are willing to walk the path of an aspect warrior and just singular focus this team and like really lock in, you know, I think you'll find success.
yeah, I think if you had like a really good player play like 50 games on Blade of the Khaine and 50 games on Hand of the Archon, I think at the end of the 50 games, I would be more afraid of their Blades of Khaine than their Hand of the Archon.
Oh yeah. Much much
That's how I
higher
see it.
skill ceiling.
Yeah.
All right. Um do we want to well, we can't even really round off Eldar as a whole faction unless we talk about two teams. So go ahead and pick whatever team you want here, Shane.
Okay, yeah, we'll revisit Eldar. Um, let's go with Gellerpox. This is a team that just got
Mm.
buffed.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't
I
even like a buff. It felt like a nearly a complete rework.
They did get a lot of changes. I still think that they are not good.
Yeah.
I
That's the
think that just
unfortunate
like
part.
yeah, I think it's steps in the right direction, but like realistically, I don't I think their limitations are like way too much. Like 5-inch moving hulks is tough. Their blessings of infection being the way it is means their reliability is just like not there as much.
Mm.
Um yeah, I don't think that I don't know. I hate that they kept the vermin as equipment because you have to like use half of your equipment slots on that, which is terrible.
Yeah, that's
It
true.
should have just been like give the team a little list building and just put it in there every game, like
Yeah.
you just choose between them. And then like I don't know if like them having the same like having no list building is like part of their core identity. It's a weird base to build around.
I can see
Um
that because that is a team that was pretty underproduced. So it's like the likelihood of somebody having multiple Gellerpox infected boxes in their collection. I don't think is something that
do you
the
need multiple boxes? I could have sworn the kill team Gellerpox.
no, that's what I'm saying is that it gives you everything in there.
Yeah, so there's no reason for this to like
I
be
see.
tied into
Okay.
equipment.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that they might be D tier,
Uh-huh.
but better than Pathfinders and Kasrkin, at
Yeah.
least. I don't know. They might be C tier, but we can take a look later and
Yeah.
change our mind.
So shooty hordes. I'm thinking we take a look at the blooded, which historically have been one of the better shooty hordes. Elites got nerfed a lot, so naturally they go up a little bit, we think.
Yeah, I think that they're really good. B tier for sure. I think I'd put them above Mandrakes and below Brood Brothers.
Okay.
I think all the teams we have in B tier are very close to each other right now.
Yeah.
I also, one thing I didn't mention about Mandrakes earlier is I think they really struggle against teams that out activate them. I think that's their biggest
Mm-hmm.
uphill battles. Um, so yeah, I think these shooty hordes do pretty well on the Mandrakes. Um, yeah, I mean, Blooded is just like they pack a pretty heavy punch. They're kind of like Deathcore, but better.
Yes.
Like the shooting is a little bit worse, but it's still pretty good. And they have a lot of melee and they have a lot of other tricks that I think more than make up for that. And if they want, they can still play the mission really well, like Deathcore.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my complaint about Blooded is I think they're not very good at scoring tech ops, but I think that's okay.
Yeah.
I think they're a good B tier team.
All right. All right, Shane, go ahead and choose another team for us here.
Yeah. All right, let's do Tempestus Aquilons.
Okay.
I don't really know. I don't know. They were like kind of underwhelming before. They got like a little buff, so that way their one of their ploys like doesn't cease to exist after turn 2.
Yeah.
Um I think they're probably C tier.
That's what
I
I'm
have like
feeling too.
yeah, I have like mixed thoughts. I think the team is like pretty decent, but like not good enough to like really do anything.
Do you think they're
Um
better than Breachers?
yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Probably not by much, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're pretty good. They're like decent at scoring,
Mm-hmm.
which is worth something, I guess. Um yeah, I don't know. I think they're just C tier. I don't think I would put them in B tier right now.
All right. Cool. So Shane, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna choose the other boxed team that came along with those Tempestus Aquilons. That's right. We're talking about the Vespids. Eagle-eyed viewers, if you've been watching this video, this whole time up to this point, you'll notice that there is a V tier below D.
Right at the bottom, V. It's very
Yeah.
very mysterious V
Yes.
tier.
Yeah, the V stands for Vespid.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
horrible.
Really atrocious team. So I keep seeing like they got buffed. And we were like I think we put them in C tier last
My
time. Like
initial
this is where
reaction
we're
was
at.
like, yeah, C tier, yeah.
Yeah, no, very wrong. Um like I've seen people like post data slate putting them in like C tier, like low C tier, and I'm just like floored.
hmm
Like what? Like you are not playing the same team as me. The buffs they got are like neat, I guess. Um, but this is like Vespids are an unserious team. It feels like a team of like NPOs.
Yeah.
Um, they have no melee really worth talking about. You can buff your crappy melee a bunch to be slightly less crappy.
hmm
They have no action economy worth talking about. They have no comms. They have 10 operatives, but basically 9 operatives because one of the 10 is like a nothing. It's like a drone.
Yeah.
They don't really have impressive defensive tech. Um, they, I don't know. It's just like they just move and shoot, and their weapons are for the most part hitting on fours with balanced 3/3 Dev 2.
hmm
Um, I mean, they can't score well. Their tac ops are seek and destroy and recon. I suppose you could try to plant beacons with this team, but you have 18 APL
Yeah.
to plant beacons. So that's, in my opinion, off the table. You can't even do it after you fly either, because you can't plant a beacon in an activation in which you were set up, which is what flying is.
Mm-hmm.
So the one thing that would maybe push you towards plant beacons doesn't work. Seek and destroy is a joke with this team.
Yeah.
Don't even think about it. Um, Recover items, you have to spend communion points to do pickups. And again, this is a team that does not have good action economy. It's also just a bad tac op, so just don't take it. So I guess you're forced into taking confirm kill every game, not because they're really good at it, but because it's like the
There's literally
only real
nothing
option.
else. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean it's just like I don't think in like a million years anybody could win a major with Vespids.
Mm-hmm.
Like this team needs another body. They need a comms ability somehow. They need some way to get APL
Yeah.
on to your dudes. Um, I think you could maybe leave the melee bad, I guess, even though I don't think we've literally ever seen a mid-range team with no melee work. But, you know, um, there's enough maybe redundancy that if you gave them those two things, which are not small things, I understand, then they would be playable.
Mm-hmm.
But this is like they're like nothing. I just can't even. I think their magnitude's worse than everything else in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's where I stand on Vespids. V tier.
Yeah. V tier for Vespid. All right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about one of the starter teams, or I should say the other starter team. That's gonna be the Plague Marines, Shane.
Yeah, they caught a nerf this data slate, and I think
Mm-hmm.
it was like a decent nerf as well. So I don't know. I would say that they were definitely A tier before.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they aren't lower than B anymore. They're probably, I mean, they might still be A, but I don't know. They're either a high B or a low A in
Mm-hmm.
my eyes. Uh, like their tac ops aren't great in my opinion. Um, the fact that you don't get the free contagion every turn unless your icon bearer is like really far up is tough. And I think in general the team, I think against a good player on a good enough team, I think Plague Marine has weaknesses that will get exploited.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but they are still very chunky. I don't know. I don't know how to like really evaluate this team.
All right.
I think I think top of B tier sounds okay to me.
Uh-huh.
I think I'm cool with that.
Yeah, we'll park him there. Next up, Shane, you go ahead and pick one.
Let's do one of the brutal and cunning teams.
Ooh, yeah.
Let's go with Ratlings.
Okay.
So Ratlings, I think they're probably A tier.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I think they're really good. I think they're a hard team to play. They remind me in some ways of last edition Vettguard. Um, in terms of like they have a lot of tricks and they're really good at playing the mission, like
Mm-hmm.
really, really good. And I think if they're played correctly, they're probably a pretty hard team to beat. And I don't know if anybody's cracked them yet.
Mm-hmm.
But they're probably the best horde. Them and Kroot are both really good, and there's another horde too that we're gonna get to. I don't know. I think I would put Ratlings above Kroot,
Okay.
and above Hand of the Archon, and probably not above Blades.
Okay.
But I think they're really good.
Cool.
It's just like navigating that team is difficult because the
Yeah.
Ratlings themselves are so squishy, and the like all the weapons on the Ratlings being heavy, just straight up heavy, means that you have to like really plan well as to how you're even going to attack. And there's a lot of budgeting that goes into it as well. So I don't know. They're a hard team to play, but I think if somebody figures them out, they can win a major.
All right. I want to take a look at the Exaction Squad kill team now, Shane.
Okay. So I think Exaction is kind of underrated.
Okay.
Um, they have like a really deep toolbox, and they struggled with elites. Elites got a little worse. I think they do have the capacity to like just stat check some teams with like shields and 4/4 shotguns and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would say I don't know, like there's a lot going on, and they have a lot of different operatives they can choose from. And I think they're like a B tier, like a solid B tier.
Okay.
Like, I don't know. I just can't look at a team like Breachers or Aquilons and say that they're better than Exaction. Like, Exaction has 4/4 shotguns. They have a decent access to rerolls. They have really tanky models, like all over the board. I kind of like where you have them there, below Blooded, above
Yeah.
Mandrake.
Mm-hmm.
They're just like very annoying. And I think they play security pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
So I like them as a B tier team. I've seen people like kind of crapping on them, but I think they're a lot better than they were last edition. Um, and yeah, I'd like to see like a good player like really try to make them work again.
Mm-hmm.
Not gonna be me. I'm not really a fan of the team, like a playstyle perspective, but
Yeah.
I'd like to see it happen.
All right. So I think it's your turn to pick now, Shane.
It is. Let's go with. Oh man, let's go with Novitiates,
All right.
who just took a pretty like relevant nerf. Before we had them in S tier,
Yep.
and I believe that was correct. But I think that just the two little nerfs they did were like really big.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think it makes it a lot harder to justify taking the team now. Um, like the fact that the damage reduction doesn't work on crits and it doesn't work on mission markers, it's only objective markers. I think that was maybe like a tad too much. I think they're a C tier, like better than all the C tiers we currently
Yeah.
have.
Absolutely.
And there might still be some juice left on that team, but I don't know. It's going to take a good player to figure it out. Um, I know that there are novitiate like diehard mains out there. Maybe they'll figure stuff out. The team is a lot less toxic than before, so I wouldn't mind seeing them, have success. Just because I think the playing against them probably isn't as toxic as it was.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the healing being D3 means that like sometimes you're just going to roll one and it's going to feel really crappy. Like, wow, I spent a CP on this and this guy just healed and she gained 1 health.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. Novitiates are cool. They're pretty good.
All right.
They're not good. They're they're below good, but barely below good. They're close to good.
All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and choose Corsair Voidscarred, Shane. This is a
Ooh
team
yeah.
that's, I think, better than good. I think they are a great team, but I don't know if they're S tier because
I
they're
think they're.
You think they're S
I
tier?
think they're. Yeah, I do. I just think that like.
Do you think they have enough reliability with their dice that they're not gonna just like fall apart if they're not
Yeah,
hitting?
I think the dice problem has been solved. They have a balanced play now,
Mm-hmm.
which hitting on threes that's fine enough. It's situational balance, but it's like on objectives, so it's usually where the fighting is
That's where you
happening.
want the yeah.
Um, I think that like a lot of people underestimate how good their defensive tech is. Like they have ridiculous defensive tech. Like you have a justice scratch on the wizard that he can hand out. So you can kind of have that up all game on various operatives.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the uh, leader has a um, has the ability to interrupt if they roll higher than your APL, which against two APL operatives, that's a 3 up. Um, so you can't ever like charge and fight the leader safely because it might just fight first. Or if it's on a gauge, it might just like interrupt and shoot you if you place it well.
Mm-hmm.
And then the bird guy is so dumb because as long as you don't use his bird shooting attack, which is really bad anyway, then he just gets fight first. Um, so you can't really charge and fight him with most operatives. And he has so you think, oh, well, I'll shoot him instead. Well, he has a gambit that lets him choose one of your guys. And if that guy that he chose moves, he can interrupt to charge them or move himself. So, like, all that together means that model's really, really hard to deal with, especially if you give him the Justice Scratch. Like, even like elites can't reliably chew
Yeah.
through him because, he's got a power weapon.
Yep.
Um, the fusion pistol, the pistolier guy with the fusion pistol and the shuriken is just like a delete button, and you can get his threat range to be just so long. So, like, using plunderers to dash, you then aren't allowed to dash, but you can still charge. So you can dash 3 inches of plunderers with the pistolier after winning initiative, and then charge 9 inches, and then shoot in combat. So you're basically making like a 12-inch charge, um, which is really good. And just like, I don't know, the asymmetry of like the way that they're able to attack when they need to. So like they can set up all these defensive buffs and just like wear you out and wait you out, um,
Uh-huh.
and then strike so fast and so quickly because of their high movement speed and everything. And it just becomes like a really tough team to play against, I think, at top tables. Um, and there's like little things here and there that I think just need to be toned down with them. Like I think
Mm-hmm.
the Justice Scratch, for some reason, it works on crits as well. Um, I don't think that's necessary. It's like the only one that works against crits that I'm aware of.
Yeah, that's an
Um,
outlier.
the Shade Runner can literally blink through ITD walls. And it's not even like something where they made a mistake and they forgot to like clarify that he can't do that. It's like they intentionally said he can go through ITD walls. And I have no idea why that is a thing.
Yeah.
Um, like literally having that model teleport through an ITD wall and then dash for free and then like throw a crack or like fight or, how like maybe hatchway fight. So like he can do it all on conceal. Give him 3 APL and the amount of things he can do from like a really safe place is kind of wild.
Yeah. That is
Um,
insane.
yeah, I just think it's too much. I think there's too much going on with Corsairs. I
All
think they're
right.
better than Angels personally as well.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I think they're very good. Yeah.
All right, Shane, so your turn to pick.
Yes. I want to get Hunter Clade out of the way. Ryan,
Yeah,
I
me
can't
too.
wait until this team gets declassified because
Dude,
I just
same. I'm so sick of tired of talking about this team. Sorry if you're an AdMech fan. But like, dude, I'm so sick of having this mid freaking team in the meta. Like, I think there may have been like a 3 week span in second edition Kill Team where this team was like potentially S tier.
yeah, they
Um,
were S tier for like one
but
meta, like
but
one like 3 month period.
yeah, and I don't think they've been meta relevant like since then. So I'm gonna I'm gonna say like C tier.
Yeah, I think they're C tier. Like they're the whole like dude, and it's not just me either because I've started to hear other people say this. Like when I try to read Hunter Clade rules,
Uh huh.
I I'm like I can't do it.
Oh no.
I can't read the rules. They're so boring to me.
Yeah.
AdMech fans deserve a more interesting team than this.
So true.
They're just like literally just it's just boxes of like Skitari and Sicarians,
Yeah. Here's
and it's yeah,
here's like 3 to 4 boxes of basic AdMech guys. And I feel like especially with that faction in 40K, there's some very rich like design space where like the model design team can get like really creative with a really cool kill team, and I can't wait for that to happen. But I'm sick of looking at Zakari and infiltrators.
yeah, and it's just I don't know. Like again, I'm sorry to the to the Hunter Clade lovers out there. There's not a lot of you, I know, but
Dozens. There's dozens of them,
there's
Shane.
this is probably a really hard segment for them to listen to. But oh my god, it's aging worse and worse. Like the more
Yeah.
boxes we get, like every box, we get these like two awesome new teams that are just so cool looking
Yep.
with such unique rules, and like the sculpts are beautiful. And then like you have to look at Hunter Clade and you have to put them on a tier list. I hate this team. Like their stupid abilities where like you get a buff, but then you have to get a nerf just to justify the buff.
Yeah.
And I I I don't like them. I think they're probably better than I put them below Novitiates, I guess, and above Aquilons, I guess. I don't know. They're
That
just
that
like a
does sound fair.
drag.
That does
They're a
sound fair.
drag to play.
Yeah.
All right. What do we got next?
Jeez.
We
That was.
just crap on that
I think
team.
that was like the most brutal segment we've ever done in the history of this channel. I'll be honest.
Yeah,
Um,
that's saying something because we
it's
once had
up
like a whole
there.
tier list where we just crapped on Kasrkin, but
Yeah. Um, we're really jaded when we do these now, I guess. Um, yeah, let's talk about Phobos. Phobos is a cool team.
oh yeah. Yeah, Phobos are sweet. Phobos are like I look at the toolkit for Phobos and I'm like, dude, this team has it all.
Yeah.
This team just has like everything that you need for every possible matchup, but they're just so hard to play, and I think the margin for error is so thin.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's very few matchups where you're like just screwed. Like Corsairs is like one of the only ones, actually. Um, and like, dude, I think I told somebody recently, you know how like in chess they have like a computer can like beat any human? Like that's like a thing in chess.
Yeah, they have like a supercomputer, yeah.
Yeah. I think if something like that theoretically existed in Kill Team and it played Phobos, I think it could beat anybody on any team. But they're so hard to play. Um, like I don't know. I feel like they have an answer for everything,
Mm-hmm.
but the models die really easy.
Yep.
Um, and so you can't really afford to mess up a ton. I think they're better than Angels personally.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I really like Phobos, and I think that the meta. I think they're one of the best teams, and all the teams better than them got nerfed.
Valid.
So yeah, I think they're really good.
All right.
All right, what do we got? Let's do let's do Wormblade.
Wormblade, okay.
Yeah, I've heard some people say they really like Wormblade. I don't really get it because they are like okay, so they changed how hiding works. It's no longer a ploy. It's kind of like Aquilons. Um, but like I don't know. I see people talk about like, oh, they have so much like reliability and they hit so hard because they have so much ceaseless. But like they had that last edition.
Mm-hmm.
And once all your guys are on the board, you're still a 10 activation team. And your heavy gunners are no longer heavy reposition like they used to be. They're actually heavy dash, which really sucks. Um, the agents feel worse to me. I don't know. I don't really. And actually, what are their I gotta look this up right now. What are their tac ops? Is it seek and destroy and infiltration? That's what it used to be. Yeah. So that's bad. Um, yeah, I think they're probably like a C tier team. Like they are a horde, and the agents are still good. They're just not as good as they used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, at least in my opinion. I don't know. I haven't played against a lot of Wormblade this edition, but I look at them on the page and I just don't see
You don't see
the
the sauce.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they're C tier,
All right.
but like high C tier, barely not B.
So you said high C tier, above or below Novitiates?
Probably above.
Okay.
This is something where like maybe a Wormblade player just needs to like open my eyes, but I just
Yeah.
don't get the praise that I've seen
Mm.
them get. I don't understand it.
All right. Let's go ahead and talk about the Scout Squad.
Yeah, Scout Squad got some buffs.
Mm-hmm.
They're pretty good. I think that like so the shotguns that hit on twos with 4/4 damage are like really good.
Yeah.
And they gave them a new scouting option and also gave them a sixth scouting choice so that they could always take this new scouting option without giving anything up, where you just give a guy an APL.
Mm.
And that's really good.
So good.
And you can give lethal 5 on the fly now to some of their guns. I think to
So
any of their
good.
guns with an equipment piece.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The scouting options are great. I've seen, some people have said like, oh, once scouting's over, like they don't really have a lot of like faction abilities. To which I say, shotguns that hit on twos with 4/4 damage on like a team wide level, that is your faction ability.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep.
And you should never complain about that.
Agreed.
Uh, I think A tier's right.
All right.
I actually like right where you have them like low A tier.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see. I love the buffs. I like that they're not giving them a 10th operative. I hope they never do. I think that scouts should be like a 9 operative, like sneakier team that isn't just like a wall of meat like they used to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like where they are right now.
Sweet.
My turn. Oh man. Um, let's do Jaegers.
All right.
Jaegers make me sad because I think they're pretty bad.
Yeah.
Um, I honestly think I'd put them high D tier. Like
Oh,
I just
geez. Okay.
like first of all, their tech ops are just like unplayable.
Yeah.
Like seek and destroy and infiltration on that team is just a non-starter. And I used to think that was their only thing holding them back, but
Mm.
the more I look at them, their um their melee took a huge hit, and I think that in the design they didn't get enough to make up for it. Because before, when equipment was like points, you could take a knife, a plasma knife, for 2 points, and it was 4 attacks on fours, 3/5, lethal 5. And what you would do is you would just take like 4 or 5 plasma knives, and so all but like two of the guys on your team would have 4 attacks on fours, 3/5, lethal 5, which was nice. Um, and two guys wouldn't have it, but it would be guys that are like not fighting ever anyway, like your sniper or like the bombast or something, or not the
Right.
bombast, the iron break.
Mm-hmm.
And so what they did this edition was now knives, everybody gets one for the equipment slot, but it's 3 attacks. So because the two guys that weren't getting knives before were never fighting anyway, you've basically just taken away an attack from most of the team. Um, and it feels really bad. And like their melee strategy ploy is like really, it's kind of awkward and it only gives balance, which isn't really enough. I think it would be cool if it gave an extra attack. You could even say to like a max of 4. So that way the melee guys that already have knives don't go to 5 or something, if that's something they're worried about. But like they need something on defense or on melee to make up for losing all those attacks.
Yeah.
And they also need better tech ops, but I think they're just gonna have to wait for like a new approved ops or something because the they don't tend to change tech ops. So
Yeah.
if we get new match play rules eventually, hopefully they're better for Jaegers. But right now, you can't score points with them. I don't think their offensive output is necessarily good enough to like make up for that, and I don't think they're good enough on crit up to make up for that. So yeah, I think D tier,
All right.
unfortunately, which makes me sad because I love them.
Yeah. I know you do. Um, let's talk about another team that you do love, but you have, to my knowledge, not been running them a lot recently, and that's going to be the Ork Rekka crew.
Yeah, I was really excited for this team when they came out.
Yeah.
Pretty disappointed with them, honestly, the more I play them. Um, this is probably going to be hot takey, and I think we're going to be lower on them than everybody if you go with me on this.
Okay.
I think they're D tier, probably above
Wow.
Jaegers.
Okay. That is a hot take, Shane. Why do you think that they're D tier?
So they kind of have the Vespid problem of like their action economy is just really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like maybe you could say they're C tier, but I don't think so really. I think like the better your opponent is, the less likely you are to win with Rekkas. But like you just have like because they can be 3 APL if they fight or shoot, but that means they already have to be able to hit the opponent. So they don't have like the action economy to help them get to that point. So you're talking about an 8-inch charge range or like just being able to like move and shoot or something. So like if they're in cover, a 8-inch threat range with move and shoot into combat or shoot into cover.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's just not good enough, in my opinion. Uh, they're really weak to stuns. And I think honestly, this is a good litmus test for whether or not a team is bad or not. Is if you're playing an Into the Dark against this team and they're like, you know, outside of an inch of a door, and they're on the other side of it of a, like a, in another room on the opposite side of that door, and you can just close the door and they have no answer.
Yeah.
That's probably a bad team,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And Vespids have the same problem. I mean, at least Rekkas have like weapons that are good to
Right.
make up for their horrible action economy. But I still think that's like one of the most important things in making a team good.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like if you could just like shut an ITD door on a guy and just like ruin their whole turn, that's a bad team.
That is a
I'm
problem.
sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
They do snowball really hard though. So I think that like at lower tables they can feel
They just
way
wreck.
stronger.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think against good players, it's just not there. I think you got to give somebody like give the knob 3 APL
Mm-hmm.
built in, and then I think there's a little bit more play.
All right. So let's talk about the basically the last Horde team, I want to say. That's going to be Chaos Cult. Shane,
There's one more, but
would that be?
we can talk about the
Yeah. Yeah.
Inquisition. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Chaos Call got buffed, and I actually think their buffs are kind of nice. They can
Okay.
get multiple torments now. They have the option to do it anyway. I'm not sure if all the Chaos Cult players are doing that still, but
Mm-hmm.
um, the accurate 2 for the torments and mutants is I don't know. It's okay. It's not like really a game breaker in my opinion. I know some people really like it, but like you have these like melee weapons with rending, and if you're just getting accurate too,
Yeah.
you're not
That
rocking
is
rending
true.
probably.
Yeah.
Um, so that doesn't do a ton for me, but I do still think like they're kind of good.
Uh-huh.
I'd say B tier,
Okay.
and I would probably put them above Exaction and probably below Blooded, like
Okay.
right in the middle.
Uh-huh.
They might be balanced, to be honest. They
Perfectly
might just be,
balanced.
yeah.
Nice. All right.
Oh God, yeah.
We're getting down to it.
Oh, let's do. Uh, oh man, I this is tough. Because I'm trying to imagine where I rank a lot of these teams that are left, and I'm feeling like a lot of them are A tier.
Oh yeah. Oh
Like
no, Shane, you can't be saying that.
I want to put almost all these teams in A tier.
Oh
So
no.
what that really means is, I think some of our current, I think Scout Squad should probably go into top of B
Okay.
because
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
don't think
That.
they're on the
Yeah.
same.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't see them on the same level as a lot of these teams that are coming up. Let's do Starstriders though,
Okay.
because I think Starstriders are B tier.
Okay.
Um, I think that like I don't know. In some ways they're worse than last edition. In some ways they're better.
Mm,
It's probably overall worse, but I think it's a more interesting team to play against. I like their kit a lot. The biggest problem for them is that the assassin, who is like their main melee operative, got
yeah.
hit pretty hard.
Mm,
Um, but I still think the toolbox is very good, and I think they can beat a lot of teams, including elites. So I would say they're low B tier, probably. Mm, yeah, I kind of like that right there.
yeah. Above Exaction Squad. I feel like
Yeah,
Exaction Squad is just kind of like a gatekeeper faction,
they for sure
you
are.
know? So if the
Yeah, I
team
think they
can beat
are.
Exaction Squad, put them to the left.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, I think that Starstriders can potentially. So yeah.
all right, so let's move
Yeah.
on and talk about the boogeyman from the last meta, and that's Warp Coven, Shane.
Yeah, Warp Coven got like a whole
A whole
seat
bucket of nerfs.
of but I still think they're a pretty good team. I
Mm-hmm.
would not put them S tier anymore, but I think that the toolbox is really, really wide. And, a team with recon and security can, I think, only be so bad, especially when they have so many choices with list building.
Right.
I think a lot of like the stat checky aspects of them have been brought down, which is good. But I still think they're like pretty strong. Um, where would I put them? I don't know. A tier, yes.
Yeah.
Uh, man, and they're not a team that I expect I'm going to see a lot of because I think with the nerfs, I think a lot of
People
people are going to jump
jumping
off.
ship. Yeah.
Yeah, but for those people that I think stick with Warp Coven, I think they'll still have some success.
Uh-huh.
I kind of like them right there.
Right
Yeah,
here.
yeah,
Below
I think that's good.
Nemclaw, but above Blades of Khaine.
Yeah,
Honestly, I feel like Blades of Khaine or Warp Coven, like you can just like switch them, and it's still all right with me. Like I think it's just a coin flip.
yeah, and like I think the best thing about Warp Coven is the temporal flux thing where the teleport happens.
Uh-huh.
And they didn't nerf that, so I don't know. They nerfed some stuff that you can combo with that, but that ability is still really good.
Yeah.
And they also left Fate itself as my weapon alone, which is another really strong ability.
Yep.
So yeah, I think that you can definitely still do a lot of work with Warp Coven. They're just going to be less
Mm-hmm.
unfair for the opponent.
Yeah. If you are thinking about picking up the team, keep in mind that it's in like 6 months' time. They're going to be declassified, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, if you're not playing them now, you probably won't be playing them.
yeah. Let's move on now to. Well, actually, it's your turn to choose one.
Yeah, let's do the other team that just got nerfed. Well, that does not narrow it down, but I was talking about Legionaries.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, so Legionaries received like the same amount of nerfs as Warp Coven, but I think unlike Warp Coven, they don't have like the tricksy elements. Like they have always been like
A
a
wall of
wall of
meat.
stats.
Yeah, and they just
Yeah.
punch hard. That's their whole
And
thing.
and that's really what got hit. Now teams can hit them back. And I think that there's enough stuff that Legionaries can like pivot with that there might still be play for the team into top tables. Like maybe
Mm-hmm.
they start taking Slanesh now. I don't know, but I think that Warp Coven is going to weather the storm of changes better than Legionaries will,
Mm-hmm.
because now good players can try to outmaneuver Legionaries a little bit more, and the Legionary players can't just walk up and like take whatever hit gets thrown at them and then like get a double kill.
Yeah.
So I think, but that being said, they are still there's a lot going on between all the different like Korn, Slanesh, Nurgle might be dead now, but Corrin Slanesh and maybe even Zinch too. But yeah, I like them where they are, like bottom of A.
Okay. Shane, I'm gonna go ahead and choose Inquisitorial Agents.
Yeah, so I mean, I think they're pretty good. I they got nerfed a lot as well, and I
Mm-hmm.
wonder if they're like a high B tier and not an A tier anymore.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, like they're still good, but I think it's like
What's like the
I don't
big
know.
nerf that makes you think they belong in B instead of A?
So they get one less piercing weapon
Yep.
total, and they can only take one piercing 2 weapon, which is a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the random nonsense got taken away, like the skull coming back to life and
Yeah.
the Kasrkin reposition thing. Like the quest keeper, it's on 4s now, which is really nice. Um, they're still a good team. Like I kind of view them the way that I view Blooded and Brood Brothers, but just I think they're a little better than those teams.
Mm-hmm.
I think top of B is fair.
All right. Yeah.
Because I think that some teams could just like they're another hard team where I think you can't mess up much with them even before when they were like really broken,
Mm-hmm.
and now they've got a lot less going on. So I think
Okay.
this is a good spot.
Cool. Uh, Second to last pick for you, Shane.
Yeah, let's do Hearthkyn.
All right.
I think Hearthkyn's really good. I think we had them in A tier last tier list, and
Mm-hmm.
I've had like a roller coaster with them where like I thought, oh, maybe they're actually not good, and then I was like, in the recent weeks, I'm like, you know what? I think they actually are good,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that there's like they've got that alpha strike with the jump pack that we talked about last time
Yep. Love that guy.
that you just do on turn 2. But I think if you like, there's a lot of Hearthkyn players that I'm seeing that are just like that's their whole strategy is they just do that, and then if it doesn't work, they just lose.
That's not a strategy. That's a tactic.
Yeah.
You know.
Um, and I think if you hold back a little bit and like you just play them a little more normal, and like maybe you do that jump hack thing like turn 3 instead of turn
Mm-hmm.
2,
Yeah.
or at least start entertaining the possibilities of doing it like different each time.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can project threats, and I think there's a lot of power in having things that you can hit the opponent with, but maybe you don't. So I don't know. I like A tier. I think I would put them above Legionary
Okay.
and probably above Kroot. And I think I'd stop there.
All right. So my last pick for team for this tier list is going to be the Kommandos.
Yeah. So um, I'm kind of excited to talk about this one because I think
Ooh.
Commandos are secretly pretty cracked.
Pretty cunning.
Yeah, I think they're very good right now, and like
Mm.
nobody's talking about it, and I don't understand. So like when you look at it, so
Mm-hmm.
like I think they lose to elites,
Okay.
but we're in like an elf meta right now, according to people. And when you look at the non-elite teams in like A tier and above, Farstalkers, Hearthkyn, Hoda, Ratlings, Blades of Khaine, and then even go into like S tier, like Corsairs and Fellgors to some extent. I think Commandos have fine or good matchups into like all of those teams.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, they're not great into elites, but I think there's going to be less elites. And I also don't think it's like unwinnable. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I just think that they have so many wounds, and 11 activations is still dumb,
Yeah.
and they score tac ops pretty well with surveillance. Um, they just have a lot of tricks, and like their stats are good, and like there's just a lot of them. Yeah,
All
I
right.
think A tier.
Yeah.
I think I like where we have them right
All
there.
right. Cool. And then Shane, last but certainly not least, we got to talk about these Void Dancers because they are back to being a problem again.
Yeah, they're the best elf team, I think. Um, I don't think I'd put them above Felgor, but
Yeah, no,
they're
we
very good.
we discussed the Fellgor Ravager and Void Dancer matchup a little bit during our last game. So why do the Void Dancers, do you think, have a poor matchup into Fellgor?
Yeah, it's just the fact is they can't fight twice,
Mm-hmm.
which is a big problem. So like if Void Dancers charge and fight a Felgor operative and they frenzy them, that's just it. Um, and they're probably going to take 4 damage, 4 or 5 damage on the way back. And then that frenzied Felgor can just activate and kill them. And you just traded 1 for 1. Um, Obviously that means you have to lean into like shooting them more, which, hey, valid. But shuriken pistols can be a little dicey, especially if you don't get the crit.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think with Void Answers being really good now, I think some people are sort of forgetting that, they've always had like ways where they were kind of beatable. Like they're only 8 guys and, they
Yeah.
don't have any healing. They have the lowest wounds, I think, of like any team in the game other than Blades of Cain. And I don't know. The thing about Void Answers that's annoying is that there's like a lot of like RNG, like randomness built in, where there's a lot of ways it can just go wrong when you fight against them.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can fight them, but they might, Segrax just might go off and they might turn your hit into a parry. Um, you'll shoot them, but they have 4 up invulns. They might just make their invulns.
Right.
Or maybe they only make 1 invuln, but it lines up with Domino Field and they save like 3 dice with 1 4 up.
Yeah.
And it's just like you can't really control those situations. You just have to hope they don't happen, which I think is why Void Answers feel so oppressive to play against. And
Mm-hmm.
for teams where they can get double kills, like the Hordes and stuff, pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
There's little things I think need to be nerfed about them. Like I think that the amount of free CP they get is pretty bonkers from the players getting a free firefight ploy every turn.
Yeah.
That can probably be like once per game or something. Um, they're really good. I mean, I also putting them this high, I also wouldn't be surprised if they don't win any majors. I think good players just are pretty good at playing against Void Dancers. I just think now the variance, there's more ways for it to go in the Void Dancer's favor than there have been in the past.
Gotcha.
So it could totally happen. And like we've seen people run really deep with them at
Yeah.
Worlds and LVO. So
Mm-hmm.
they were kind of the best team that didn't get nerfed, other than Felgors maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But Void Dancers were a little better in the past meta than Felgors were.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're pretty good into elites, and Felgors were bad. But now I think Felgors are better. It's
Mm-hmm.
just Void Dancers are going to be a problem for a bit.
Well, all right, guys. That basically wraps it up for our new post balanced data slate kill team tier list. Let us know what you guys think about this tier list down in the comments below. Let us know what you thought we got right, what you thought we got wrong. We did get stuff wrong in the last one, so hey, like, this is just our opinion of the current meta. Um, but yeah, I think we can all agree that Vespids are pretty terrible. If I see any comments that are like, no, Vespids are better than, like, I don't know, Imperial Navy breachers, like, that'd be pretty out of pocket. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video, and we will catch you all again in the next one.